Hello. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Apostate Coalition. We are the worldly perspective, and I really already don't appreciate Tyler's attitude in the show. Welcome everybody. We've got Tyler Rickshaw, we've got Dobstopper. Ryan gave us her blessing but could not make it tonight.
The devil got a hold of her.
Yes, she's washed in the blood, I guess. So she had to go to the shower. It was messy. She's
gonna get a prayer group together.
Well, welcome. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Ready to get washed in the blood myself.
Yeah. You said that phrase to me right before I made the link for this. And
right.
I was like, what is that even from? That didn't come up in any of my research. What are they talking about?
It was actually never something I don't recall really hearing any Jehovah's Witnesses actually say it. It was something I always heard from other Christians.
It's a different Christian branch.
Oh, yeah.
There's several that say it. But...
Oh, yeah. They like Baptist church say it a lot. Washed, covered in the blood, all that.
But I've always heard it being in the South. Washed in the blood.
Yeah. You need to be because you've been sinning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you guys haven't guessed it, we're going to talk about blood tonight. Yeah, pretty much it. Like what do people believe blood is a pretty good place to start. And why does that matter? Well, we'll find out. Thanks for joining us. I just wanted to say this topic is kind of personal to me. Obviously, it's personal to many people. Anyone who's a Jehovah's Witness, it's personal too. For me, it has become more relevant to my life recently as someone I care about is potentially in a situation where they may need to confront that decision. Do I or do I not get a blood transfusion or any banned products? I don't know what else to call it. We'll talk about that. So we'll deep dive. I deep dived. I had to learn everything I could. So I did all this so you guys don't have to. And so really I've been thinking about it so much and looking in so many different rabbit holes that I feel ready to just talk this out tonight, because my goal personally is to maybe make a pamphlet of sorts of something that I can, something.
That's a good idea. I highly recommend doing that.
Oh, man, you gotta love pamphlets, don't you?
I have. I'll get there. I've already looked into it. Anyways, but other than that, on a more maybe academic way, just to kind of spell out in a way that is factual and unemotional and can be shared with healthcare professionals so they can understand. And so talking it out, I think, would be helpful so that I can, work out the kinks here. So anyway, the topic tonight is blood transfusions, and I don't know why Jehovah's Witnesses won't get them.
That's a topic that a lot of them, I'm sure, would love to learn more about, because I don't think many of them know exactly what they themselves believe. But I don't know, maybe more of them do than I would assume. But
what do you mean by that statement?
Well, if I ask Jehovah's Witness right now, can you take blood? Would they just say yes or no, or would they have a more complicated answer? And I think a lot of them would probably say there's more to it than just no. I think they could say, I can have a part of blood. But if you ask them what part that is, they have no idea what any of that means. So I think that's as far as it goes with any of them. And I think some of them probably don't go even as far as to be able to say more than no. And it goes so much deeper, I know, but I think you know way more than I do.
Well, actually, I decided, what do I actually know? And so that's kind of what one of the pathways I went with this is I just said, all right, let's go back and learn it. Let's go back and ask questions. And so I started looking at this from a perspective of, okay, so the premise is because of these things in Bible, we should not do this thing, right? That's the claim, as it were.
The truth.
And that's it. That's all I wanted to do. I just want to look at it from trying to take my own emotional opinions out of it, which has been very difficult. I'm only human. But the more I can do that, the more I feel like I can objectively paint the picture, right? So what if a Jehovah's Witness like the whole point of being a Jehovah's Witness is so that everyone in the world has the opportunity to know and understand your belief because you have the one true belief, then you need to be understood, right? And if people misrepresent you, that's not a good thing. So I don't want to misrepresent people. I just need to understand it because it doesn't make any sense to me. So that's where I'm coming from.
I'm coming from the angle of they crazy.
Right.
Yeah, that is a shorter way of saying what I just said, I guess.
What was that? Remember on Family Guy when they cut to the news?
Ali.
Yeah, Ali. Just cut to have you do your long spiel, then cut.
The answer is no. She could not be here tonight. Something blood related. I'm sure of it. But yes, she came in. She gave us her blessing. We're all washed in her blood now, and whatever that means. Amen.
All that menstrual blood.
Oh gosh. I just went live on YouTube, so it might push the video to get people to look at the.
Do it.
At the link to come to the stream.
So Jay brings up a good point, which is, I believe, Dobstopper, your point, which was J-dubs don't know what they believe.
Right.
And so you had said that I don't disagree with you. I think because that's the point. How do you know what you believe until you actually learn about it in as depth as you can?
Well, they know that they know they can go to the elders to get more things to then give to the doctors. I have no idea what they would have to say about it. I've never looked into what they have to say about it personally.
It's crazy. It's like y'all talking about a whole nother world.
Actually, you bring up something because I knew this was going to happen down a rabbit hole. There's a scripture that I believe the governing body used to show their authority for what they're doing. And what they're doing is looking out for the flock and sort of being the ones to interpret God's word for them so they don't have to.
Right.
So that they can focus on what's more important. So there can be a unifying leadership available, and they will provide all that you need to do the job. And that is exactly what the governing body does. I don't think you can doubt any of that. I think everything they do, you could say totally does that. It doesn't mean any of it's right or that it makes any of it make sense or that it isn't still maybe a scam. But they never have to demonstrate what gives them that authority or that what their qualifications are to have that authority. Like, how would I know if you are the one who should be in charge or somebody else? And they never address that.
You told me something was equivalent to a master's degree or something. So they're qualified, right? That what you said, right?
Correct. That is 100% correct. That reading Jehovah's Witness literature is the same as a master's degree.
Yeah.
Very similar to going to Trump University, similar to a doctorate.
It's no higher degree than a Jehovah's Witness degree.
Reading the toilet paper I wipe my ass with is similar to both.
Hey, look. Just because us Jehovah's Witnesses got all these degrees, don't be hating on us.
I'm jealous. I'm sorry. I don't have any yet.
It ain't gonna be worth nothing compared to mine. You know who my dean was? Jehovah.
So what?
This is I think one of the scriptures that the governing body uses to claim they have authority.
Council of Ricks. There's a Council of Ricks in the Bible.
Acts
Well,
15
yeah,
is the
can you
Council
pop
of
up?
Jerusalem or something. The people who came together and said you have to abstain from blood, you have to do all these things. We do it through God to help you so that you don't have to worry about all that
Can
stuff.
you pop that other comment back up again?
Oh, sorry. Yep. This one?
Yeah, that one. Red
Okay.
blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, plasma, all blood. Yeah, I mean, they just, because they don't even look at it like this. They just see it as just
right. That's why I said earlier.
Whatever they see, like that liquid they see, oh, that's blood. That's like, no,
Right.
it's a little bit more to that. You know that, right?
There will be blood.
Yeah.
It serves absolutely no purpose.
So
it's not that blood is not that important to your body, is what they're saying. You don't need it that bad to live.
Okay.
No, they still think you need to live, but
nah, if you can't get no transfusions,
they just think
you don't need it.
Yeah, they just don't think that living is more important.
I have so many philosophical ways to go and answer this and look at this question, you guys. When you look at the definition of blood and you start teasing out, because they made me tease it out. They're the ones that were saying what could and couldn't be given. And I'm like, wait, how does that fucking make any biological sense? And so then I had to go to the origins. I went so far back into where does blood come from and when does it become blood? When does plasma just become blood? That I went all the way back to embryonic development from the zygote. Like I had to go all the way back to be like, okay, now I understand what this is. Just because they are the ones that are teasing it out. So what is blood? They talk about whole blood. Okay. There's no term in the Bible that says whole blood, by the way. I've looked.
2% blood.
Right. There's no part of blood, right? And so philosophically, what are we saying blood even is? Can you say it's blood if you remove one of these components?
Well, so let me
are one of
say,
these components on their own still blood?
If that's the case, then you can't eat any meat or red meat at least, because there's something in there that is part of blood. Whatever makes it red is a part of the blood, isn't that?
I imagine it's like going to the gas station. You got regular unleaded, and that's how they treat it. Which blood they use? Regular unleaded blood is what they use. They can't use the Supreme.
Saying the fireworks.
I'm like, wait, okay. There's an analogy. Wait, what?
Regular unleaded blood. Yeah, I was talking about how they be talking about it says no whole blood, this blood, that blood, part blood. They were treating it like different gas pump.
So
let me get part blood on pump 2.
Did you happen to look in before the show to what the elders have to say about what constitutes or what they're allowed to have?
Oh, sure. They have, let's see. I mean, first of all, you're getting ahead of yourself here because we still haven't even figured out what blood is and why it's so goddamn special. But yeah, as from what I can tell, essentially you can't have any of the red blood cells, white blood cells. Thrombocytes are what platelets are, and they're all made in bone marrow and emptied into the bloodstream where they then become active and they perform a function floating around in plasma, which is just a bunch of soluble proteins. Excuse me. So I don't know what I just said. Soluble proteins mean that they look like water, like you've seen them, albumin, egg yolk, or not yolk, excuse me, the whites of the egg. These are soluble proteins. And that's it. It's just like a matrix it's technically a connective tissue of the sort of the origin of the bone. So that's it. And then there's just everything and every organ that is in your body makes something and pumps something into that bloodstream, and it may do something, it may signal something, it may trigger something while you're exchanging nutrients and waste, and that's it. That's it. That's what it does.
I like the way you say that, exchanging nutrients and waste. That's a nice way to say, I gotta go. I'm gonna go say that now. Every time I say, oh, excuse me, I gotta go exchange some waste.
Oh, I didn't know you were into that.
Yeah. So, anyways,
that's a vocab now.
What does that say?
So, wait, what all did the elder say you could have?
So you can't have plasma,
right? Oh, you can't. Okay.
But through the wonders of science and technology, you can have proteins that have been precipitated out of that plasma and then dried and then reconstituted and injected into you. Or the DNA coding of that thing that is then plugged into usually like a bacteria or a hamster ovary cell, or some they have different cell lines that do this better than others, and it will then produce that thing. Like little machines that you tell it what to do and it makes that thing. They're like little 3D printers. And we manipulate the DNA of whatever we're doing using to create it. You can inject that into your body all day. That's okay too.
So, okay, what else do they allow? Or what else? Do they say anything about anything to tell doctors whenever?
Oh.
You're.
Are you talking
whenever
about
they have to get a transfusion? Huh?
Are you talking about the script?
Yes.
To follow?
Let's see the script.
You can find those in all of their publications and videos. I tried watching some of the videos.
I'm getting anxiety and ready to even hearing this guy. Let's hear it though.
Yeah. So here's the thing, guys. I trained a ChatGPT to look for very specific sources with as much objectivity as it could, with like and to like, and I tried asking it questions without putting a lot of emotion into it and stuff. And so basically it was like, tell me about this, and what can you find about what they believe, and just letting it find stuff on the internet. And then I'd even say like, okay, now only using the JW library sources. Like I want to know this from the source, what they allow. And then I just ask it, well, what about this? Or you mentioned this, but how do blood cells do this and this? Or just like whatever rabbit hole I went down. And I did log into my ChatGPT if you guys want to look at any of the questions in the conversation I have with it. But that's why I went. That's like where I found all of the JW sources, because I'm not using that website.
You don't want to use the truth.
It's rough.
You don't want to hear the truth. You're scared you might slip and fall back in.
It is stupid.
Because the truth is so tempting.
A JW can take any parts of blood, just not all at once.
Right.
So kind of, but not really, because I would say red blood cells are part of blood, right? I would say every single thing that you can tease out of blood is part of blood. Like, if it's circulating in there, then it's part of blood. But the limitations, that's basically what they've said you can do, but there's nothing really we get from the rest of it. Like there's some proteins that we can isolate that are helpful. There's antibodies and things like that we can pull out, which apparently the product of a white blood cell is okay circulating in blood to isolate and use, just not white blood cells, because that's blood. So you see my dilemma? You still need to let
I
me
will
hear.
say that one thing I did briefly bring this up to my mom, who is a active JW. For those who don't know, and one thing that she mentioned was that they encouraged something about bone marrow, something that stimulates your bone marrow to produce more blood.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha. Is this in the script? Is this mentioned in that script?
Is sorry.
Like,
In what script?
is there a script for JWs to tell their doctor about what they're allowed
Oh,
to have?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't look into it that I didn't go down that rabbit hole yet of tell me all the ways that people are. I'm just looking at the same stuff that anyone could find. Um,
Right. I thought that might have been
to
the script that you found.
kind of look for it. No. I mean, I'm not purposefully looking for did they give a script. Now, I did find a couple of publications and continuing educations that are directly aimed at physicians and other healthcare providers that would even give them CE credit if they did it for like cultural sensitivity training or something. Um, but it's basically their they make an educational pamphlet to teach providers how to approach Jehovah's Witness issues because of their no blood. And the majority of it is like mansplaining to people how to just stop the bleeding. Like, and it went into detail of like the GI tract and like any place that you could have major bleeding, the uterus. Like, it just went into detail about basically every line was, oh, and as quickly as you can, if you could just get that bleeding to stop, that would probably solve the problem of not needing a blood transfusion.
Right.
And it was like, yeah, no fucking dumb, man. Like, like, are you kidding me? Like, these aren't helpful. You're not telling me anything I don't already know and would automatically try to do
They
anything.
make it seem like the rest of us is just let them bleed. We can just give them a drug.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. You know,
Just
don't
let
worry
them
about it.
bleed.
Oh, we get paid by the blood, so
The more blood he loses, the more we get paid.
right. That's right. It's just. I did want to. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. Jay made a point about how they came up with fractions, which I think they're very unclear of whether the red blood cell, white blood cell, platelet is fraction, and then fractions of fractions.
Is fraction anything legit, or that just straight?
It's like
What?
math, a fraction, like a
Yeah,
fraction of a whole blood fraction.
I know, but
plasma would be a fraction, right? Is plasma not a
I
fraction?
know, but do anybody like in the medical field? Do they think they use fractions?
No, nobody uses that term. That's not a thing. We call
Okay,
it
that's what I was. That's
red
what I was
blood
wondering.
cells.
Oh.
We call it
So-
fresh frozen plasma.
So you're not gonna go to the doctor and nobody
Call
say
it
you
the
need a.
thing that it is to do the thing that we need it to
Nobody's
do.
gonna say, well, we'll just give you a fraction of this.
I mean, you might as well just give him a teeny tiny bit of blood.
Yeah.
Like,
Give me a fraction. Can I get like a half?
here's 10 millimeters.
Let me get can I get like 0.3 of a red blood cell? or point 0.5. Let me get an eighth.
Right.
Let me
Can
get
I
an eighth.
get a tenth of blood?
Let me get a QP.
Everything that they've come up with as far as new light of what you can do is from medical science. And all of that is exactly what he said. We identified things in blood. We learned about, how did we learn about what was in blood? I don't know. One day somebody got smart and stuck some blood in a centrifuge, and it separated based on what was that? Molecular weight or specific gravity of what got pulled by gravity further. Like, that is the definition in which they're using to define this, when none of that exists in the Bible. None of that is talked about at all. That is only knowledge post Bible.
Because the Bible is the truth.
Then why didn't it say whole blood in the Bible? Give us a little Easter egg of future knowledge we have to learn.
If you knew how to read the Bible, you'd know that it says that you can have blood parts that aren't plasma. that have gone through synthesized processes. You'd know that if you could actually put your faith in God.
Well, I mean, I guess you got me there. What can I say to that?
Showing.
Yeah, I think what happened is just some fucking guy who claimed authority over a bunch of people who were willing to give it to him, because just like that scripture in Acts with the Council of Ricks, or the Jerusalem Council of the early Christians, where they had them all come together. This is when they said things like abstain from blood, and also said, we're here on the authority, we're the anointed, we're here, God said we can help guide you, early Christians, and keep the unity. It was more important to keep them together, because they had like Gentile Christians, and then they had, Jewish people who became Christians because of Jesus, and they were meshing not well because of completely different cultures. And Jewish law is very strict about diet stuff, and not eating blood was probably a big deal, and some people were probably freaking out that them Gentiles were doing something.
Right. I mean,
So,
to a degree,
Yeah.
it does make sense. I don't think those. I mean, I don't know. Would they have done if they had blood transfusions back then? Would those people have been okay with it? I would imagine not.
I love
But
that you asked this
maybe
question. What would Jesus do?
right.
What would Jesus say?
Or well, that's actually not necessarily what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking what would Jesus say or do. I'm thinking what were all the
But
people that
isn't
were
he the
around
most
in Jesus'
important
time.
opinion at this time?
I mean, I'm wondering what all the other people thought, because they didn't give a shit about Jesus.
You mean just people who lived in that time?
The
Yeah,
people that
they're
had
like,
those practices of not eating blood and abstaining from blood in general, and like really strict cultural practices about what they eat and stuff. If they had blood transfusions back then, would those people have been super against that, or do you think they would have been like, well, no, that's to save a life, so that's different than just eating blood that you can get rid of?
Right.
I mean, don't know for sure, but I would think. I mean, I guess it's irrelevant what I think. I would think they'd be more like J-Dubs, but maybe not.
You think they would be more like them?
Yeah, in
Well,
that
what about people
particular
who still
regard,
follow those laws religiously today?
I don't know. I guess Jewish people don't have a abstaining from blood thing, do they?
Not that I'm aware of.
But I think that
There's other medical things, like when insulin was derived of pork products, that was a problem, but I'm not aware of. I mean, I guess there could be a group, right? There's some Christian groups that are so strict they won't put anything in their body if it, like no vaccinations, no needles, no injections of any kind.
fill me up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can just say somebody's clean and they're clean, right?
right.
That works.
Y'all are unclean.
I mean, they might see this as no different than what they think they're doing, but we have the science and technology to show that, no, we actually should use soap and water and do it like this, and then you really make sure that you are protected, but as we learned when we looked at evolution, good enough is often
Good
good
enough.
enough.
Right.
Uh,
It's usually all there is available.
this the don't get me started on the hospital liaison committee. I absolutely agree. It's an entire branch of specially trained elders who are trained to talk to doctors and lawyers and any sick Jehovah's Witness who's in the hospital, so that they can stand in the way and say, make sure you don't get any blood, whether that person wanted to make that decision without their presence. And they don't do that with any other healthcare conditions to like show up like that. I mean, they might sometimes, but this is an entire branch of people who are supposed to go as soon as they find out one of their people are in the hospital and might like find out what it is, how serious is it, because they need to know your medical condition. So they need to know if they need to escalate it and have somebody show up at the hospital. Maybe even get in there before the rest of your family, because the other piece is if they have a blood card, whoever has signed the back of that card, and often can be elders in the congregation, are now your healthcare proxy. They are now legally your healthcare POA and can make healthcare decisions for you.
That's like the grand proxy.
Yeah, you just signed away all of your
No. You know who the grand proxy is, right?
Proxy. Is this a Ferengi thing? I forget.
Yeah. Remember the episode? You remember the episode with Neelix one day in Voyager, where they found those the Ferengi from Next Generation.
When the Ferengis land in the Delta Quadrant and basically just scam a bunch of innocent, gullible people with their technology, and
you can't enter the temple without an ear.
Give me all your healthcare. Control of all your healthcare. Well, I
got healthcare. So you telling me if I was Jehovah Witness, like legit Jehovah Witness, I'm claiming to be one, but they won't, it is what it is. But you I can imagine you getting sick, you got to consult that person.
Yeah.
But they don't know nothing about nothing.
No.
Right.
I mean, they think they do, because when my mother-in-law was on hospice because she had an aortic tear, which is that really big giant artery right at where your heart is, you
don't need it.
And nobody would fix it because she wouldn't get a blood transfusion, and nobody can guarantee and perform that kind of procedure. And there was just no.
So that's what got her?
It took a little while, but yeah, eventually. But the problem is it sealed up just enough, so she lived but she had a lot of medical complications after that too. Anyway, the elders kept sending her texts weeks, months after the event, saying like, "Oh, there's this new procedure now, and you can get it done, and you don't need blood, and it's really great. You should ask your surgeon about it." And
where they find these procedures at?
I looked at it, and it was a aortic heart valve replacement procedure. They can do kind of not robotically, but like they can just like plumbing wise, just fish it in there, pop it in, and fix a heart valve problem, a problem in your heart valves. She had an artery that was branching off her heart that pumps the majority.
How do you turn it? How do you rip that thing? How do you rip that thing?
There could be many. The aneurysm, you can have all kinds of issues. Okay. There's multiple system failures that can occur that would rupture.
Okay, I was just
the more you know, the more you're like, oh shit, I could die at any moment.
I read this meme. I posted the meme today. It said it was I diagnosed. It was just, I'm paraphrasing. I diagnosed myself on WebMD today. Turns out I died in 2006. I'm dead already, y'all.
You're dead. You did all right. You already died.
Yeah, I stay away from there now. I don't go there that often. Yeah, because everything leads to the road. Everything is something.
So I haven't remember the last time I've gone on there. It's been probably over a decade.
This is just a reminder to everybody, because I do specialize in hospice care and end of life care. And, one of the things people don't think about, or they maybe make poor decisions about that benefit them, is giving the wrong person or no person your healthcare proxy if you are in an event where you can't speak for yourself. But whoever you give that authority to, and I think it's criminal if people don't realize that's what they're doing, because the case of my mother-in-law, she didn't know, and then my husband did the proxy, did the healthcare proxy when she got sick, or like just before she got sick. Actually, it was for some other reason, and then she didn't know, and she brought both of them. And they let the elders in first because she had that one first because she's waving the blood card. So
Right.
anyway, my point just being that you should pick somebody. Yes, just like yes, wave it.
It's like a blood. It's like
bracelet.
a.
You can
Is
wear
it like
it
one of those?
medical bracelet.
Is it like one of those? Like you go to like a Dave and Buster's and you get your little game card. You take your little, you know, you go to the blood booth.
Let's see.
I'll take a fraction. How many fractions
card.
can I get with this? I want part of.
But yes, anyway, pick a good healthcare proxy for yourself, who will make the decisions that you ask them to, and make sure you feel comfortable talking to them about what you would and wouldn't want. Otherwise, what's the point?
I mean, it ain't gonna be somebody who don't know nothing. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I was looking for. Here we go. This is all blurred out, but I'm gonna present share screen. Sorry.
Reason.
Can we see?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I recognize those. I had one at one point.
I was looking for, I guess, what information is it asking for on here? Signature of witness. I can send. Is this the blood card?
You can barely see it though. You'll have to read it or blow it up.
Emergency contact. I'm just trying to make sure I got the right one.
I mean, I think there's also a paper version.
Right. Let's go to the Jehovah's Witness websites. Sorry, I'm doing that, but
Jay says me, okay, but I want blood if I need it, and you should respect my wishes. And I would think that's the entire point of that whole Acts 15 chapter, was them basically saying, hey, you guys need to learn to get along. You know, why don't you guys be nice to the fact that they've never eaten blood and it's been like such a severe thing their whole lives, and this is shocking to them. And then you guys, hey, maybe stop judging them just because they're not doing all the things you want, you know. So, you know, it is unfair to say you have to respect some people's wishes, but they don't have to respect yours.
Yeah, sounds about right. Speaking the truth. Speaking the truth. Sister.
This is medical information for clinicians. Jehovah's Witnesses value life and actively seek quality medical care for themselves and their children. They accept the vast majority of medical treatments, including surgical and anesthetic procedures, devices, and techniques, as well as hemostatic and therapeutic agents.
Hemostatic, by the way, just means agents that clot, like agents that stop blood, but it's usually a medical, like a medicine, like a drug, or like a physical clamping. Just FYI.
All right. However, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that allogenic blood transfusion, I've never heard this term, I don't think. Allogenic, sorry. I.e. whole blood, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma, and pre-operative autologous blood deposit.
So allogenic is basically a blood donated from somebody not you. And autologous would be like saving your own blood and donating your own blood for yourself for later and putting yourself back into you. So autologous, allogous.
So wait, repeat. A preoperative autologous blood deposit is what now?
Okay. However, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that allogenic blood transfusions, aka other people's blood, whole blood, red blood cells, white cells, platelets, and plasma, and perioperative autologous blood deposit, meaning I donated my blood and to transfuse it later in surgery if I needed it, are prohibited.
Oh, you can't take your own blood?
You can't donate your own blood for yourself for later.
Dang. That'd
Well,
be a
you
good
can't put your
idea.
own blood back in you.
Not put your own blood back into your body. Once it has left your circulation, it is now lost its soul, I guess. Which I don't know why then putting other people's blood into your body is a big deal if they've also lost their souls by taking it out of their body and putting it into yours, which is a temporary functionality that then is still a living cell, will then die its natural life cycle because each cell has their own life cycle because they're living organisms. Cells, I mean, we're living organisms.
Are we?
Supposedly. So that's all fucking temporary, and you can't do that. You can't do your own because it's dead once it's left or it's lost its soul. I don't. It's blasphemous. Yeah, that's. I believe also the premise of why they shouldn't donate blood too, because they're. I don't know. Either they're helping other people do something that God doesn't want them to do, and that would be sinful, right? Like helping other people sin, or it's just because you're taking out pieces of your soul, and I don't really know. Blood puddings.
I was just reading this. I'm like, what is this about? In 1950, contained the following report of a discussion that occurred in British Parliament. This guy asked whether, in view of the fact that dried animal blood plasma imported from European slaughterhouses was being used as a substitute for eggs and cakes and confectionery sold in Great Britain, the government would give an assurance that steps would be taken to prohibit the sale of this plasma for the use as a substitute for eggs, with special regard to the fact that the supply of eggs was more than adequate for all purposes throughout the country. Mr. Willey, parliamentary secretary, stating that the government would not do so, added that bakers were still short of egg products and animal plasma was a valuable and harmless substitute. Mr. Fletcher, to protect public from deception, should not these be labeled blood puddings?
Ooh,
Laughter. However,
no.
this
Blood pudding.
this additional case of violation of God's law prohibiting the eating of blood is not a laughing matter.
Oh. By the way, ChatGPT said that there's the Acts 15, which is the part where Paul or whoever it is that's talking, I remember, says, you must abstain from blood. Again, the context of the conversation being trying to join two early groups of Christians because unity was the most important thing. And they said that repeatedly. But the Leviticus one is the Mosaic laws where they're going, and you shouldn't do incest, and you shouldn't do, and talk a great deal about not only not eating the blood of the animal and pouring it on the ground, but also sacrificing every animal you slaughter or something. I don't know. Like, I need somebody, an archaeologist or somebody to tell me. Anthropologist.
What is this here? Let me.
Did you find the wording? I thought you had it.
This is from some UK.
There's like the tiniest little gnat that keeps flying right in my face.
I, the undersigned,
I'm like going crazy here.
born on this day, being a Jehovah's Witness with the firm religious convictions, have decided to obey, blah, 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 with a full realization of the implications of the position. I consent. Subject to the exclusion of transfusing of blood or primary blood components to all such necessary emergency treatment, including general anesthesia and surgery, as the doctor's treatment may perform the professional judgment deemed appropriate to maintain life. I will accept non-blood volume expanders. 2. Direct that such consent is temporary and only effective until such as I am conscious, sufficiently capable of making my own decisions, that such consent and any subsequent consent that I may give excludes transfusion, and that my express refusal of blood is absolute and not to be overridden in any circumstances. by purported consent of a relative or other person. Such refusal remains in force even though it may be unconscious or affected by medication, stroke, or other condition. Rating me incapable of giving wishes. This advance directive shall remain in force and bind all those treating me. Accept full legal responsibility for this decision and release all those treating me for any liability for the consequences resulting from such exclusion. Witnesses to signature. Signature relationship. I don't see anything that gives a proxy to J-Dub.
Depends on who signs where. Because within the document, you're also naming somebody who has the proxy.
On here?
Yeah, I mean that's the point, isn't it?
I don't think so.
Well, then who's making those decisions for them?
I think this is just saying that I consent to everything besides that until I'm conscious. But I don't know if this is the card that they give out right now or not.
Well, I will have to look into that some more.
Because I also see there might be something that has a code on it. I forget what these QR code on it. Possibly.
The one I saw was a paper printout, but again, I don't. I'd have to look, and I haven't gotten that far in it.
You haven't gotten that far into the word?
I will make sure that I'll look into it more with my own mother.
Hey, Dan.
Howdy ho.
It says it's a healthcare proxy. So are you are put as somebody signing it? Because like I remember my mom signing it and like for me, and I had to carry it when I was like a young kid. And
it sounds like y'all taking D&D a little too serious.
For real, right?
Yo,
it's a little too far.
Blood cards.
This troll can't cross bridges. It's inhumane for you to force him to go across the bridge.
Don't you do it?
A cat?
Yeah, I was talking to the cat.
Well, so yeah, there's the.
Oh well, I guess what it does is if my mom says that I am like in charge of her medical decisions, it keeps me from being able to say that she can have blood. So the card itself acts as a proxy in that way.
What? Piece of paper.
It does. This piece of paper would overrule anybody that she signs in that case. It would only occur if they found it.
If they're not customizing it to state laws too, I don't know that would hold up. And also, you're forgetting the one very big fact that often, maybe not as often as it should happen, but often, children, when they are in need of blood transfusions, will end up getting a court order to get that blood transfusion. So when you've got countless kids across the United States getting chemotherapy and because they have childhood cancers, and chemotherapy is most definitely going to destroy rapidly dividing cells, and your blood cells happen to be one of them, that you will become very anemic to the point where you may be near death, and here your parents are putting you through all of that chemo just to say, no blood. And every oncologist and every pediatrician and everybody is like, are you fucking kidding me? And so people started taking them to court, and it is so common now that courts will always just say, yep, yeah, give them the blood transfusion, save their life, and then they go, here you go, here's your fucking alive child, you assholes who don't deserve this kid. And then they go, oh, okay. And then the church goes, or the Kingdom Hall leadership, elders, whoever, will say, it's okay. God knows that wasn't your choice. You tried. You tried. And it's not your fault that Satan's world has forced you into this situation. You're not responsible. And it's a perfect fucking loophole. It's perfect. And not that I'm saying I'm glad. I'm glad it's there, because it is. I've watched very long presentations from children's hospitals talking about this, from medical providers who were like, I was there every day trying to help this kid. And it's really heartbreaking, because it isn't just the parents that have to suffer from this. It's everyone who's tried really hard to help save kids' lives. And there we are, just like, once they're alive, and now that they're alive, they have to follow all those ridiculous rules, that this stupid D&D game that isn't even real.
Yeah, you got to follow the truth.
Is this why D&D was invented by somebody that was raised Jehovah's Witness?
I don't know.
I live a life of nothing but random rules anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I was a kid, it crossed my mind.
To what?
Make a game out of nothing?
No, Russell's Watchtower's comments that I suspect most J-Dubs secretly hope a court forces their child to receive blood.
Oh, right.
Like, I have to do this, but also really hope somebody will stop me.
Come on, please stop me.
Mm-hmm.
Please, somebody stop me. I think that was that hook.
Well,
Somebody stop me. Don't try to stop me. Stop me. Yes. Anyway. Hello. How are you? Glad you could make it. 2-person rule.
Hello.
Yeah. Another reason that I guess they don't care about children. So I don't know.
Hello, J-Dubs, doing what they can to save the world.
So I don't know what. I've done a lot of research, and I have good news and bad news. Actually, I have bad news, then good news, then bad news. The bad news is if you're going to go strictly to Bible interpretation, there is no whole blood. There is nothing anywhere in the Bible that would suggest that if you tease out things out of blood, that's okay, but not,
Right.
There's so many reasons to think of so many different things that are more important, or that should be taken out of context of all those things. So the bad news is, I'm sorry, there is no fractions. There's no fractions of blood. It's going to be all or nothing, right?
Lies.
All or nothing. The good news is I really don't think that that's what the Bible intent is. I don't think that's Jesus' intent when you read all of the things he did, and even some of the things like in Acts when you're reading it. I mean, Leviticus is its own thing, I'm not going to lie. But the Genesis one, I also have some really interesting thoughts on that. But the point is the point of those contexts of those things really don't translate to the point of a blood transfusion. And I can find you a lot of things that Jesus said that I'm like, wait, how come we're just totally ignoring this, but we're cherry picking this one thing that Paul said? But isn't the whole point of everything Jesus was trying to make in all the parables and the things that he was saying would fit with this? So I have analogies also that we could talk about that are fun. But the bad news, again, because it's bad news, good news, bad news.
Bad news bears.
Yeah, there is only whole, there's no whole blood, it's just blood, but it probably doesn't mean blood transfusions, and that isn't the point. So you could probably get a blood transfusion, except the bad news again is that you just have to obey the governing body, and there's nothing to it. It's obey. So you've got that sunk cost fallacy. You've gone this far. You got to double down and if they're that important, if they're really truly who they say that they claim to be, you have to do whatever they say, no matter how bad it is, no matter how much you think that it's, what was it we were talking about? Organs were once considered a form of cannibalism. They talked about blood transfusions being as if eating it. None of that biologically makes sense. None of that is
Right.
what any of that scientifically means. But they're cherry picking the science they want to see. They spun it in the centrifuge. It looked cool. We've identified what our blood is made up of. But
Stop
we'll
here.
use science for that, but not for the rest. Tyler, you had something to say.
I said we'll stop here. That's what they said after that.
Yeah, we found the evidence we want to find,
Good
and
enough.
we're going to shut our eyes and not look any further, because then we can claim, I never saw any of that. I don't know anything about that. The evidence I saw says this. It's
Good
convenient.
enough. It's good enough. They've done enough. Y'all asking for too much. Why are you like this?
Yes, Jay, I feel I felt this too. Everything about it, so many of the rules and the purity culture and everything, I was like, this was probably the hardest. This, and maybe just the concept of Satan or demons or something like that. That's a toss up. They were in there somewhere.
Why do you think the blood doctrine was one that stuck with you for so long?
Maybe it was just because I was inclined to medical things because of my sister being born with a lot of disabilities, and she was in and out of hospitals all the time and stuff. So it felt like a very real possibility of something I would have to confront. And then also just being torn with the concept that none of this is real. And if I just, ignore this urge to save my life, right? And continue to live. And if I can just shove that away, I'll have a promise of something so much better. And the incorrect weight of reward and value, I think it just took me a while to unshift that and realize that doesn't. And maybe that's part of why I'm just so diving into this topic, because I just need to prove it to myself again, or see if I'm totally wrong and if I'm totally bonkers. And I don't know, Jay. I don't think we're bonkers.
Tyler's now abandoning us.
He's a ghost.
So I hear. From someone in their 20s, right?
I don't know that really means as much as you think it does.
I want it from somebody that lives in an area with no mosquitoes.
I don't know that that's realistic either.
Y'all got mosquitoes over there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't everybody? That's what I mean. Like,
if you like Norway or something, somewhere up cold, and
are they bad up there?
Where?
The mosquitoes? I think it just depends on how close you are to fresh, stagnant water.
Oh. Well, get you then.
I don't know. I am mosquitoes love me, so I don't know. Dan makes a good point, and this is kind of what I was trying to say earlier when I was like, what would Jesus say? What would Jesus do? Jesus repeatedly said, hey, you guys are so stuck on the rules that you're missing the point. Right. At least that's how I took it, Oh no, you ate you prepared a meal on the Sabbath, and it was just because they pulled some grain off of probably somebody else's property, by the way, and just stole their grain, but just popping it and eating it on a Sabbath or something, and there were repeated examples of times where Jesus used a parable to rebuke the Pharisees for going way too far in the rules and way too over. And it sounds so much like nitpicking fucking blood.
Right.
I can't get over it.
Right.
And Dan, you're just totally right. Like, would Jesus? I even made a couple of memes and stuff just to make myself feel better about it. But yeah, it is the idea of like, okay, Jesus is standing in a hospital and he's gonna say, "Oh, sorry, you can't give this kid blood. That's sorry, you're really just gonna have to. I sacrificed myself, and I talk about eating and even drinking the blood to shock you because it's symbolic. And you guys are freaking out, and you're doing this, and I just don't see Jesus being like, yeah, don't get that blood transfusion. Jehovah would be so mad at you if you did that. or better yet, Jesus is gonna be like, yeah, no, that technology that allows you to safely donate your own blood for a procedure that you know you're going to have that could be risky. Everyone will tell you autologous blood donations are always going to be the safest because it's your blood.
Right.
It's perfectly keyed to your body. But we have ways of tolerating other people's blood, and it's just temporary. Do you know the Jehovah's Witnesses do finally allow you to have organ donation, even though they did call it basically cannibalism? Then in the 80s, they stepped back. I think it was like in 65 where they came out with a watchtower and said that. And then in the 80s, they came out with a watchtower that was like, what do you mean? Of course you can have organs. That's obviously your personal choice. Just make sure it's drained of blood.
What?
Blood. And you can't get an organ transplant if you need a blood donation.
Well, you can't get a transplant then, right?
Okay. But I confirmed this. You can get a bone marrow transplant. I'm going to wait and let that sink in for a second. Did you know that when you get a bone marrow transplant from somebody you're compatible with, it could still change your blood type?
Really?
And so you will then have DNA and blood type of another person. Sure hope they didn't commit a crime. And you can change and alter your own blood type because of a bone marrow donation that you got from somebody else.
So you're telling me
totally allowed.
You're telling me that if I am a serial killer, I should donate my blood often.
I mean, it's either never or very often.
What a way to get out. What a way to see. That's all I gotta do.
So yeah, if I donate my blood often, then other people have my DNA. Actually, I'm just gonna use, and I can use that as an excuse in court and be like, "Hey, look, I donate my blood all the time. You got the wrong guy."
I got a bone marrow transplant. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah,
you had a bone marrow transplant?
Well, you have to prove
only if I get accused of crime.
only.
That's what you're gonna tell the court. That's what you're gonna tell the court. Oh, I gave a bone marrow transplant. I mean, I couldn't have committed those murders. We got you on film, sir. Wasn't me.
This is a great point. What is more sacred to God, blood or life? I would say life, so that it in itself automatically cancels out the governing body's blood doctrine. And if you go back to Genesis, where the very, very first time they basically say don't eat blood, is apparently the very first time that humans are allowed to be meat eaters and omnivores, because apparently up until that point, they were not. They were all vegetarian. This is well after they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And anyway, we can look at that later because I have thoughts on that too. But they keep going back to all these things. But the whole point in Genesis was like the blood is like your soul. It's life. And what I got from it was you're going to respect the life that I am now allowing, that I created, that I'm now allowing you to kill and eat, and to show your respect for the life that I created, that I'm letting you eat. Because I think it was after Noah, maybe. Was it Noah? It was after the flood.
Wait,
and there were no animals other than 2 of everything, and apparently that's when God was like, now you can eat meat.
That don't even make sense because it wouldn't be like that. Don't make no sense because what are they eating? Because the animals are gonna have to eat, the meat eaters are gonna have to eat. They're gonna end up eating the other things, and whatever those other things ain't there no more, then that's it. They ain't got that much to eat from no more. So how did they start? How did they get everywhere they needed to be and survive? Because that didn't make no sense. But hey, it's each his own. I believe it. I'm Jehovah's Witness.
You have to have faith.
I just reject it.
Well, if the
Right.
sanctity
That way
of
you
life
can get
is
the afterlife you want.
important, also, why aren't Jehovah's Witnesses vegetarians again? That would be the most certain way to know that you're not accidentally eating blood. Anyways.
Wait, can Jehovah's Witnesses eat blood?
The Jehovah's Witness organization recognizes that it would be near impossible to expect that every single ounce of blood would have been taken out of a manufactured, butchered animal. So a certain amount of it is obviously, just inevitable, and they understand that.
Can Jehovah's Witnesses have blood sausage from like UK?
No.
Okay.
No.
I didn't know. I had no idea.
Of course not. I was like terrified as a kid somebody might feed me something I couldn't eat. Like there was a time where that was a thought in my head.
I didn't ever hear anything about that. As far as I was concerned, I just thought like eating it would be fine, but taking it into your veins is not okay. You can't freebase blood, all right? Can't freebase it. You can't shoot it. Can't snort it. Eating it's fine.
No, you can't eat it. Yeah.
Can't
so I looked into Jewish butchering practices, whereas kosher salt comes in historically, is how they would butcher the animal, which honestly, they also would often leave the animal alive when they would start to bleed it so that the heart would pump the blood out of the animal and help drain it faster. That's not what happens in most, I think, like mass butchering places where they'll just like zap it dead in the head or something. And
yeah, they just send like a steel rod.
Anyway, I don't know which one sounds more cruel, to be honest, but
well, they get a lot of.
Doesn't feel like it's the spirit of the whole point of the not eating blood in the first place. Well, the whole point was to respect the life that God gave, that he's allowing as a concession, as it were, to eat meat. And here we are, just like good enough, and we're also just going to cram animals into a pen and have them live the worst lives ever, and then but we drained the blood, so it's good. Right. We're fine. It's fine. We don't worry.
Don't worry. All the animals I eat are terrible.
I only eat immoral animals.
Yeah, they're all immoral.
That have sinned against the Lord.
Yeah.
Is that the bald guy who turned into a JW ghoul?
A JW ghoul. Ex-JW ghoul with how bright white my skin is.
Yeah, you gotta pressure wash the organs before you except for bone marrow transplants. As long as you don't get a blood transfusion of bone marrow transplants. Okay.
I would highlight these comments if I had the power to.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's not so nice. Witnessing in Thailand for a few months, and they'll throw a scoop of blood in some of their dishes. I'm still gonna pass on that. You know what? You probably wouldn't really depending on.
Do you want the taste of pennies added to your?
There might be like a metallic hint to it, but I think for the most part, it doesn't really taste like a whole lot. But it does have a lot of protein, and actually, there's a lot of scriptures in the Old Testament where they talk about pouring the blood on the ground of the animal. But also, and this is when I want to go to Genesis and show you guys
the Old Testament,
like early Genesis, like Adam, like Cain and Abel section.
Okay,
there's a part where
like a dog.
They're like talking about pouring the sacrificed lamb that they kill an animal for Jehovah, and then they pour the blood onto the ground. And there's a part after Cain kills Abel where supposedly God is saying, "What did you do?" He's like, I can sense the blood pouring into the ground. And it said like the ground will open up and accept the blood.
Right.
but it will not give you the power of like earth and gardening. Like, and I realize this sounds a lot like people believing like if I just pour this blood here, then it'll make my plants grow better, which it is fertilizer. It can act as fertilizer because there's so many components in blood that can be helpful for plants to grow. So pour the blood on the ground, your plants grow. But in this case, you know, it's so shameful that he did that, that the ground won't even give you its power to grow, which doesn't sound like something Jehovah would say. So I don't know. It read like a completely different theological
Almost
culture.
like they're making it up.
Almost like they just took it from something else, and it's just slowly you can watch the Bible just evolve into something completely different. So don't ask where you got the meat. Yeah. This, because I think all of this was just about keeping Christians Christian and just like, you know, let's not go crazy here.
I need to know where you got the meat.
Guys.
I want to know where you got the meat, especially back then, because I don't want all the meat. I only want some meat. This ain't a raccoon, is it?
Don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask. You don't want to know.
He has a problem.
Unchristian of you to ask if I would be serving you possum tonight.
You serving him possum.
Yeah, that was something that made me upset because I am also somebody who is like a mosquito attractant and they love my blood. And as
it's because they can see it.
But yeah, yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Like they're watching it race. Look at that. You see it.
Did you know that you can, whenever a mosquito is biting you, you can squeeze your arm around
Yeah, you
it?
can. Anyway,
and make it explode.
Why would I do
that? To punish them for having bitten you in the first place.
Do they exist? If they're literally in opposition.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Laws.
So you're a Jehovah Witness, and you get bit by a mosquito. What do you do?
Well, if that mosquito had bitten somebody else before,
yeah,
it bit you,
that's what I'm saying. It's been biting numerous people at the picnic.
Then you've sinned, and you're not getting into paradise on earth. Just kidding. No, it's just it's just like the loophole that Dr. Timeister was saying earlier. That they'll just say, "Well, you didn't intend for that to happen, so
right."
It's fine.
And they're okay with what is considered significant, right? Like, because I can argue that the amount of blood from a mosquito that gets regurgitated into the next victim is probably so minimal. Like, they would have to be so viral loaded for you to catch a virus from another person that way, for it to just happen to catch that sample of blood that has virus in it, right? Unless the mosquito itself is creating a virus, which is malaria. So, well, not a virus. Never mind. I bet it protista. Anyway, different. Eukaryote.
I know a guy
is malaria. No,
a protista. Have you ever eaten a protista? I've seen people doing it on TikTok. Looks weird.
Eat a protista? Aren't they quite small? We probably eat them all the time. I don't know.
No, there's large bull.
Isn't amoeba a protista?
No, like bull kelp. There's like stuff that is on the beach that's like algae. Yeah, kind of similar to algae. I don't think algae is a protista, but there's like a water bamboo type thing. All these fireworks got my PTSD acting up.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because they popping these fireworks for no reason, yo.
Actually, it's interesting that you say this because the anti-venom for at least a rattlesnake, I don't know about other snakes.
Goes to a horse.
There's probably multiple sources, but sheep is what I was thinking of.
Oh, gotcha.
Sheep have, I think, a natural immunity to the toxin that is in rattlesnake venom. And so they isolate the antibodies. So they take a bunch of sheep's blood, they pull it all together and they isolate it and they get the antibodies. And then they derive that into a reconstituted infusion that we give people when they get a snake bite to bind up the toxin in their body.
I'm part sheep.
So that's okay, though, you guys. That is okay. You can still take donated blood, pool it together with hundreds and thousands of different people's donations. I don't know how many, I'm just saying. And then collect enough of something that's very, very tiny, in very tiny quantities in the blood, and then pool it all together and give it to one person. That is so expensive. Like, all of the things that Jehovah's Witnesses are allowed to do are the most expensive ways to treat an anemic situation of whatever kind.
Convoluted.
It is
Yeah.
convoluted. And, like, we don't want to always give people whole blood. There are consequences of repeatedly getting blood transfusions like it's candy, right? There's a problem when you drink too much water, right? There's always a balance, and that's why they started coming up with things like packed red blood cells or fresh frozen plasma. Give you the component you're missing is really no different than saying, okay, you're vitamin deficient. Let's give you more vitamins to replace that. And I don't see how it's any different other than just like where you sourced it.
I only source mine from ethical places. All my blood is natural.
I source mine directly from Nestle. I only use evil corporations to get my blood.
All my blood is pure, clean of sin.
Your blood is clean of sin?
Mm-hmm.
But I thought everybody was born in sin.
Not mine.
It says from newborn infants.
Okay.
No, because they're already getting antibodies from their mother by that time.
Yeah, they have original sin, brother, that's inherited.
No, I get mine straight from Jehovah.
You get blood from Jehovah?
Yeah, I milk them like cattle. Got them out back in the stable.
What do you do? Stab him?
Uses get that blood out of his udder.
You pierce his udder, his blood udder,
mm-hmm.
and just blood comes spurting out.
Mm-hmm. Fresh.
His blooder.
You ever tried it straight from the tap? Straight from the teeth?
Sure haven't.
Straight from the teeth.
Sure have not tried that.
Blood from the teeth.
Well, I think I might have to go before too much longer. It is kind of, let's see, it's been an hour and 15 minutes.
Except for Jehovah's Witness gathering.
Yes, and I just left
my window even longer, unfortunately.
And now there's mosquitoes in here, so...
You left your what open?
Oh, you're getting blood transfusions right now.
You open your window? You're a wild person.
Yeah, getting bugs in. That's why I don't let my window.
You ain't got no screen on that?
Stupid. Well, no. It's a weird window, and it's a...
You got that serial killer window.
I guess.
How did they get
in? I have a lot of different avenues that we could go down if anybody is interested. I'm still trying to kind of put together my bigger concept that I want to do. So I don't know. I might just keep having this conversation every now and then, and I'll show you guys my process and my progress. But yeah, I don't know. I guess this is what happens when they say, if you really want to know about what we believe, you should just study the Bible. And so I highly recommend it.
Well, I mean, have you not studied enough for you to be able to just tell me when I ask you?
Maybe I should show you guys next time some of the conversation that I've had with ChatGPT, just so you can see, because every once in a while obviously it's stupid sometimes, but like every once in a while it'll say something and I'm like, okay, I hadn't thought about it that way before, and then I'll start going down a rabbit hole or whatever. But if you guys want to know more about, I seriously went back all the way to a zygote, and I had written in my notes, it's the chicken and the egg. It's the same chicken and the egg problem. When does blood become blood? If blood cells are produced in the bone marrow and then released into the blood, but they are also blood, then at what point is blood blood? And the answer is the egg. Plasma is essentially first before any other kind of cells are made, but plasma is also kind of like amniosis, like amniotic fluid and albumin, and they're all, I don't know, kind of similar across species too. So it's almost like evolution. Anyways, I went really deep into it. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about that, cool. We want to go philosophy, I got you. We want to read the Bible. I mean, let's make ChatGPT do it. But
Read the Bible.
Sometimes just reading some of the J-Dub literature again, and I'm like, oh, all right, this is bad. So ChatGPT the rescue.
I believe in ChatGPT.
I do too.
It's Jehovah. Chat Jehovah.
Yeah, I was speaking in Jehovah tongues.
Vampires. We could talk about vampires too. Like the most demonic thing that it could ever be. Yeah, I loved vampires though.
Right.
Yay. Okay. Yes, we can chit chat on Discord, the Apostate Coalition Discord. If you're not in,
oh yeah, another Discord channel I can add that I just get notification from. But I never actually go in there and look.
That may also be exactly what I do. Sorry, Jay. It is Discord to me is so difficult to keep up with, and there's so many places to go, and it's almost a little overwhelming for me. I'm like, I'm gonna go back to TikTok.
Sometimes I'll join a Discord and then they got so many things you got to do to be able to do anything, and I say never mind.
Oh yeah, it's like an incentive-based social media.
Like I'm not clicking on this and doing this and all this.
What else? Try to convince. Yes. I mean, ChatGPT is agreeable and very polite and very encouraging and overly so. Like I'm kind of like, can you just cut with the?
Yeah.
That was the most amazing question you could have ever asked.
And it's weird that it has that these AIs have their own art style too.
Their own art style.
Yeah.
Their own art style. AI has their own art style. Is what they have.
It kind of all
their own
the same. Yeah,
their own.
You can tell it's AI. It's theirs.
You could tell
theirs.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
And what are the fractions of AI? What is AI made of? What are the components of AI?
Every artist on this planet.
It has a certain thickness of black line that it uses around every cartoon it makes.
And it has a certain level of deadness to the eyeballs.
Speaking of which, the thumbnail for this episode, if you guys go back and look at it, it's niche. I know nobody's gonna get it. They live honestly, the whole point of all of this stuff, and I think I said at the beginning, I'm just gonna end this show. It doesn't matter. All of the deep diving I did, all of the information I have, all of the embryonic development and scientific research and biblical scholars, doesn't matter. They have to obey the governing body.
Right.
That's it. Obedience is worship.
That sounds like the Jemadar.
Obedience is life.
The dominion.
Yeah.
That's the only thing Jehovah will reward is obedience.
Only thing they can get is the white.
Yep.
I was waiting on. I said like
Tetracell white. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, it's starting to get Star Trekky, so that's that's the time we should probably go and refresh our beverages and say goodnight, everybody. But thanks for hanging out. We'll talk more about blood. I think we've got
was it exchange our waste.
I must have not seen that
nutrient
episode.
Exchange. Yes,
yeah,
garbage in, garbage out, y'all.
Yeah.
The Deep Space Nine references. I'm so glad you love them. We've got more. In fact, if nobody has noticed Tyler's rules of acquisition that he changes on his titles, you guys should check it out. So, but yeah, everybody have a good night. Have a good 4th of July. Take care of your pets.
Protect and back it up, Terry.
Everybody look out for
Put it in
fires
reverse,
and
Terry.
protect your pets. Okay.
Put it in reverse.
Put it in reverse, Terry.
You'll be safe
Aw.
as long as you keep it in reverse. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.